So we're here today talking about vessel decontamination protocols. We're at one of our decon sites. We're going to go through a couple of different tools we use and how we go through the protocols and the methods in which we're going to do that. So I want to talk a little bit about decontamination as a whole. It was implemented mostly for small-bodied aquatic invasive animals. So that's where we want to focus our time and attention. Obviously, aquatic plants we're worried about too, but we are a bit of a specialty to focus on those small-bodied aquatic invasive animals, and some of these protocols will help us address that. So the magic temperatures and numbers are 140 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 seconds of exposure on the outside of boats, and any of the interior areas that we're working on, we're at 120 degrees for 30 seconds of exposure. There's studies out there that are backing those numbers up, and we're trying to base all of our protocols in science. So those are the temperatures. Again, 140 degrees for 10 seconds on the outside, interior areas or compartments, 120 degrees for 30 seconds or more. So I want to go over a couple of the devices we're going to use to achieve those different protocols and decontaminations. This right here is a valve really, but we're going to call it the gun for the sake of the program. This is going to plug into the hose on the end of the pressure washer right here. Some of the other ones look a little different, but they work in the same way. So from there, I want to talk about the different things we use to achieve decontamination. This is the low pressure hose right here. This is what we call the low pressure hose. Again, all of these devices just clip in right here, quick couplers. Make sure that collar slides forward anytime you're plugging anything in here. The low pressure hose is used to check the temperature of the water prior to any decontamination, and also to decontaminate the interior compartments or anything that needs low pressure hose exposure. So life jackets, ropes, bilges, live wells, cup holders, surfboards, boogie boards, wakeboards, any of those kinds of things. Really simple to use. The water's going to come out about the rate of a garden hose. And all you're going to do is utilizing your PPE and your gloves, you're going to have your hand here. You're going to discharge the water into interior compartments or slowly onto those items that I just listed. Vessel decontamination, the proper protocol is to go from the inside to the outside of the boat. So just like you wouldn't sweep stairs from the bottom up, you'd start at the top and sweep things down. We're going to start inside and wash things out. So that way when we wash things off at the end, there's nothing still coming out of the inside of the boat. Another device that we would use, considered interior, would be any device we're using to flush cooling systems on a boat, right? So these are the main two devices we would use. This is a lower unit flushing muff, and this is what we call a fake-a-lake or a true inboard flushing device. And these both kind of do the same thing. They simulate the cooling water that the boat would normally be sucking out of the lake, running through the motor to cool it, and then discharging it back into the lake. On an IO, so an inboard outboard, or an outboard, you'd be utilizing these muffs here. And you'd install them from the front of the motor over the intakes. You're going to supply water to the motor first. You'd have the boater turn the motor on. Once the discharge of that motor is 120 degrees for 30 seconds, you're going to have them shut that motor off. You know that lower unit can be considered flushed. This device, the same way. It's designed to cover what's called a through-hull fitting, which is just an intake on the bottom of the boat rather than on the motor. It sucks water up through the bottom of the boat, over the motor, and out the other side. So this would go over a brass fitting that we can identify for you later. We can provide the water through this fitting. Again, we turn the water on first, then the boat on. As soon as we're discharging water of the appropriate temperature for the appropriate time, the boat can be shut off, the water can be shut off, and this can be removed. So as far as the exterior of the boat, there's a couple different devices we use, but the main device we're going to be using is this device right here called the wand, right? Anytime you hear me refer to the wand, I'm talking about this thing right here. The wand is pretty useful. It has a variable pressure adjustment right here, which you can turn the pressure down by turning this forward. Turning it backwards will turn the pressure up. I recommend that when you initially discharge water, you have it all the way forward and you kind of discharge it at the ground away from anybody, because there will be an initial burst of pressure. We generally utilize in the AWI program the green or white nozzles, which are the broader, less intense. So this tip will create a fan structure of water kind of coming out of it when it's operating. And what we want to do is, utilizing that fan, we want to simulate a sweeping motion or direction backwards, generally from the high points on the boat and the front to the back. Working in kind of 6-foot sections, you want to sweep back or scrape back, kind of visualize that in your mind, in a direction that's controlled and systematic, rather than washing kind of erratically is just going to spread things out in that adhering water on the boat. Again, the wand can be turned down to a much lower pressure. We don't always have to run it at that 3,500 PSI. So we can use it for other things. We can wash anchor lines at those lower pressures with the wand. The wand can be pretty versatile itself. This device is known as an undercarriage cleaner. And right in the end here, this big black nozzle is a turbo nozzle, it's referred to. And this also will go right in the end of the gun. And from there, you can roll it around underneath those low-sitting trailers and low-sitting boats like pontoon boats or bass boats. We want to be very careful. There's extremely powerful and a lot of water moving out of this nozzle. So we want to be careful we're not too close to the bottoms of those boats. But it is very useful to get underneath low boats, behind pontoons that we can't normally reach around. This device here will save you a lot of cumbersome wand fighting underneath a lot of the pontoon boats and other boats like that. We have a short black hose with a garden hose fitting on the end of it. Now the garden hose fitting is very useful for a couple different things. One, it plugs into your muffs and into your Fake-A-Lake right there. But this device also allows us to flush jet skis or jet boats, which will have a garden hose intake port somewhere on them, generally under the hood, under the seat, or on the back of the jet ski. You can screw this in. Some of the hoses are fixed, some of them have a quick coupler, and you can quick couple there, provide the water for flushing a jet ski. A jet ski we want to flush kind of in reverse. Normally we provide the water first, then turn the motor on. With a jet ski we want to turn the motor on and then provide the water to avoid damaging the jet ski.